right now, it seems Rey Mysterio is not the only person going into the WWE Hall of Fame, as Rey Mysterio will now be joined by Stacy Keibler, and it seems more and more likely by the day that the Great Muta will be joining Rey Mysterio as another inductee into the WWE Hall of Fame. But we will get more in depth into that later on in this video. Speaking of WrestleMania weekend, as that everybody knows that the Hall of Fame ceremony will take place over WrestleMania weekend. Well, one thing that has been one thing that has not happened yet is we still do not have a match for Gunther at WrestleMania, and that was what the match at SmackDown was for, the Fatal 5-Way, which both Drew McIntyre and Sheamus won. Well, actually, current report said that Drew McIntyre was actually not medically cleared to compete in that match until the day of the event. And, you know, because he had been fighting an illness for the entire week. So it is, I mean, it's crazy to think that McIntyre had, like, it's crazy to think that Kofi Kingston was pulled out of the event because of an injury, and Kofi is going to miss WrestleMania because of an injury. It's crazy to think that also McIntyre almost was pulled out of the match, and that it would have been two replacements. And the question is, in my opinion, if McIntyre was pulled out of the match, who would have won alongside Sheamus, or would it have been just Sheamus winning? And if Sheamus would have just won, would have that meant we would have gotten the rematch between Gunther and Sheamus for the Intercontinental Championship after they tore the house down at Clash at the Castle? I mean, no offense to Drew McIntyre, but I mean, that doesn't seem like a bad thing. That doesn't really seem like a bad thing in my opinion. Or that really wouldn't seem like a bad thing in my opinion. But either way, Drew McIntyre has impressed everyone backstage with how hard he's been working, and the fact that he's willing to put his, you know, not necessarily, he's been willing to work his ass off, even, you know, work through injury, work through not feeling well, yada, 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 and just put everything on his back and put the company on his back. And, well, everybody's taking notice, to be honest, and, I mean, people are impressed. So I do think that Drew McIntyre, after WrestleMania, will be one of the top contenders for the WWE Championship, because WWE is going to have, I mean, WWE is going to keep him in the public eye as far as that's concerned, because they want to reward him for how hard he's been working. You know, for how hard he's been working and all he's been given to the company over the last couple of months. Because he's been, I mean, from what I remember, I think there's been probably 2 or 3 reports of McIntyre not being 100% since War Games back in November. So I applaud McIntyre for the hard work he's been putting in and the effort he's been putting in over the last couple of months. But the reason why I chose Lince Dorado in this match, and it's not to be a participant in this match, and it is not just because of the fact that Lince Dorado is one of the people that I normally pick to be in the news videos. It is because Lince Dorado has actually been announced for an MLW War Chamber on April the 8th. Lince Dorado is the current world middleweight champion in MLW, and will defend his championship against Lio Rush at the event, which should be a fantastic match between two of the quickest high flyers in professional wrestling. This goes along with Jacob Fatu against John Hennigan for the National Openweight Championship, Taya Valkyrie defending her featherweight championship against Delmi Exo, which I guess goes along with, if Taya Valkyrie is joining AEW, what does that mean for her time in MLW? Because I know she's done with Impact Wrestling, but nothing has said she is done with MLW. So I don't know what's going on there. As Taya Valkyrie has, I believe she just won. I could be wrong, but I believe she just won the Featherweight Championship not too long ago. Willie Mack versus the real one, which we spoke about in a previous news video, I do believe. Alex Kane versus Shingehiro Iri. Billy Starks against Becca, which could lead to a future title match for one of these two women against Taya Valkyrie for the Featherweight Championship. Also signed to appear is MLW reigning MLW champion, MLW's reigning heavyweight champion, Alex Hammerstone, the World Tag Team Champions, the Samoan SWAT team, Microman, Calvin Tankman, One Cold Manders, Matthew Justice, Mace Warner, Ricky Shane Page, Akira, Davey Boy Smith Jr., Delirious, Sam Adonis, Mandy Leon, and so many more are set to appear for War Chamber on April the 6th. And also, MLW has another event set for April the 8th, so it's going to be a busy couple days for Major League Wrestling. We now shift over to Impact Wrestling, as Impact Wrestling has signed one of the hottest free agents, and that is former, or I could say former, but also current NWA star Kylie Lynn King has officially signed with Impact Wrestling, according to Fightful, and in an interview with Steve Fall from Wrestling News Co., Kylie Lynn King has said, there's been a lot of buzz on social media. Is she going to sign anywhere? Who is she going to sign with? The biggest thing I've been preaching is, guys, I already know what's going to happen. I've manifested it. It's just a matter of who is going to step up and offer that deal. Impact did, and I'm very excited. I'm in love with their product. I love the character work that goes on there. I'm excited to be a part of that and see how Kylie Lynn King goes through Impact Wrestling product. It's going to be a great time. Kylie Lynn King has, as I mentioned, worked for the NWA. Also, in the past, has worked for Impact Wrestling, working the Impact taping in late 2022, and also worked for AEW in the past as well. But she has been one of the more talked about independent wrestling stars over the past couple of months. And also, according to Fightful, something that I mentioned earlier about the Great Muta getting inducted into the Hall of Fame, it is now official. ESPN has announced that the Great Muta is the next inductee into the WWE Hall of Fame. This coming off the fact that Fightful Select had revealed on March 10th that Great Muta had been pitched for the Hall of Fame. I do believe this goes along with not just WWE, having their international appeal with the Hall of Fame, but also Triple H taking care of the international output of WWE, because if you remember, Triple H and NXT is the one who brought Jushin Thunder Liger to NXT a few years back at one of the Brooklyn takeovers. So, I don't know. I'm not going to say that this wouldn't have happened under Vince, but I don't know that this would have happened under Vince. Sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. But either way, Stacy Keibler is actually not official, but it is very likely that Stacy Keibler will be the next inductee into the Hall of Fame after Keiji Muto, as Great Muta now joins Rey Mysterio as the two members thus far of the WWE Hall of Fame class. And also the Hall of Fame, as I mentioned, will be... The Hall of Fame ceremony will air on Peacock on March 31st, following that the go-home edition of SmackDown before WrestleMania. With that being said, we move forward as a Fatal 5-Way has been announced for NXT Stand and Deliver for the NXT North American Championship, with NXT North American Champion Wes Lee set to defend his championship in an open challenge match. I've heard that Wes Lee will be determining his challengers over the next couple of weeks, which is a unique way to set up the match. In my opinion, I believe that Nathan Frazier will likely be a part of the match, because Nathan Frazier and Wes Lee tore down the house the last time those two fought for the NXT North American Championship on a recent edition of NXT. Also, maybe Tony D'Angelo and Dijak will also be a part of the match if they're not going to have their own match at NXT Stand and Deliver, as Dijak and Tony D'Angelo have been feuding for the last couple of months. So, could go either way, but I do think that those three men are likely to be a part of the Fatal 5-Way for the North American Championship at WrestleMania at Stand and Deliver. Speaking of, I was gonna say speaking of WrestleMania weekend, but instead of that, speaking of first, because I don't remember the last time the champion got to pick his challengers. But speaking of first, this weekend, AEW will have House Rules on March the 19th, on Saturday, March the 19th in Ohio. It will be the first time in quite a long time that AEW has a house show, and Anna Jay will be stepping into the ring against Britt Baker for the very first time since January, as she has been on the shelf. That she, being Anna Jay, has been on the shelf nursing some injuries and getting fully healthy since that street fight on Dynamite back in January against Ruby Soho and Willow Nightingale. But also, I just want to share this before we go. Kevin Nash took to Twitter and paid tribute to his longtime best friend, Scott Hall, as it was a year ago today that Scott Hall passed away. I do remember pretty much the entire day, or a year ago yesterday, I should say, a year ago yesterday that Scott Hall passed away. I do remember every day, all day yesterday, all day March 14th last year, I pretty much made a big deal about, I was on Twitter all day looking and hoping and praying that Scott would not pass away. And I remember being, shocked and incredibly saddened that Scott passed away yesterday, on March 14th, 2022. Various other people, including Mark Merrow, Bully Ray, Lex Luger, and the Iron Sheik, of course, fans from all over the world, paid tribute to Scott yesterday. It might be a year, it might have been a year, but the realization is still not there that Scott Hall is not with us anymore. We miss you, Scott, and, Godspeed. So with that being said, I will see you in the next news video.